We only have one planet, and we're killing it for profit, greed, and our selfish consumption. Do you know what this means? We are killing ourselves on purpose. And for what? Short-term gains. And do you know what the worst thing is? Many of the world's diplomats are villains of this tragedy. Diplomats can stop this when representing their cases at summits. The forest fires of the Amazon rainforest is a living tragedy, and it really made me think of the day I hated diplomacy nearly 10 years ago. Let me tell you a story that will give you chills because it still burns in my heart today. Hi YouTube, I'm Talyn, CEO of Grassroot Diplomat, where diplomacy starts with you. Through this channel, I'm going to train you on how to become a diplomat. Like most young people, I graduated from university wanting to change the world. To me, that meant being a diplomat. I trained to be a diplomat to support a lifestyle where I could travel the world, create positive change for my country on the world stage. Back then, I was a really huge climate change activist. I joined marches, I supported various organizations, I annoyed my local political representative with letter writing campaigns. But I wanted to do more. And as a diplomat, I thought that I could make change happen because I would provide policy recommendations to my government that would benefit my country and the world at large. Bullshit! Diplomacy doesn't work like that. And I got a really rude awakening at my first diplomatic mission. This was back in 2015. I was invited to join the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen, where world leaders gathered to negotiate a legally binding climate change agreement to reduce greenhouse gases and move towards a carbon neutral world. This basically means countries have to lower their emission, less fossil fuel consumption, and more commitment towards a greener world. So I was just a rookie with a lot of high hopes. I still remember taking my first steps off onto Danish soils, smelling that brisk, chill winter air, the fog coming out of my mouth, and I thought, I'm home. I was getting ready for one of the most important summits of my generation, because it was about international security, climate change. Sadly, the Copenhagen Summit was a total fiasco, and throughout my time as a delegate, I was furious. It was 10 full, pure days of anger. Here's why. While thousands of people marched outside the summit, inside the summit, diplomats and world leaders were too busy talking about their own self-interest. Reducing carbon emissions wasn't a priority for a large majority of countries. Making money and keeping lobbyists happy was much more important than the health of our planet and our people. Now, seeing the Amazon rainforest burn on TV and knowing that world leaders were not applying pressure on the Brazilian government to act and save this beautiful gift that we're given is totally rage-inducing. Our house is burning and no one cares. No one important anyway. This is why we need to take up arms as diplomats. Every single one of us, even you. We can't let our house burn because we don't have another place to go. And please, let's not start talking about finding life on Mars. I mean, let's get real here, okay? The Copenhagen Summit was my first experience of diplomacy failing in action. And I remember asking myself, what's going on? Why was there such a big divide between our government leaders and our civil society? Why is there a lack of unity between what the government said was their interest versus the interests of thousands of people who are marching outside? They also represented their countries, you know. There's clearly something going on here, and it wasn't good diplomacy. I saw thousands of people marching the streets of Copenhagen, begging to be heard, wanting change, declaring that our planet comes first before national interest in the name of one humanity. But I didn't hear their voices inside the negotiations, and I didn't see their voice make an impact with what was happening around me, as I was surrounded by official global representatives who only cared about themselves. Now, what is national interest if it isn't about the people? And why have summits when no one is listening? So, I decided to ask and confront the diplomats I actually engaged with. And I must have met over 100 diplomats. And I came to realize what the purpose of the conference was. Every diplomat had an official statement to make. And just by being present was enough for them to make a stand. Now, I was under the impression that the whole point of a negotiation was to actually come up with a compromise solution that every country had to follow, right?
Whatever.
But no one was listening to each other. Each country took their turn to make their statements and talk about cooperating with one another, blah, blah, blah. But there was a lack of action in making that cooperation actually happen. You know, I even had an argument with a diplomat, and he was saying that it was unfair for his country to be capped a lower emission because they never got the chance to experience an industrial revolution like the United Kingdom, which meant that their country was falling behind on improving their economy. Okay, so you're saying that you're gonna have these kids work in these factories so that you can get rich. Really? I couldn't believe my ears. But that wasn't his opinion. It was the opinion of his government. So it was his job to represent that. It was such bullshit. We all know what happened next. The conference led to little agreement, and in the end, our world leaders couldn't agree, and the conference was a complete failure. The richer countries continued to do what they wanted, and developing countries just kind of followed behind them. It was like no one cared except for the people who are actually experiencing climate change in their countries. It was diplomats from those countries who actually spoke with passion for change. But unfortunately, those diplomats were also representing some of the poorest countries, and their messages just fell on deaf ears. It's such a shame. No, it's our shame. If my country had little interest in another country, my job as a diplomat would be to not to pay them too much attention, even if I felt personally different about what my government wanted. Which really meant the voice of my government. Whoever is in power at the time, I guess. I was shocked at how 90% of the diplomats I came in contact with were unwilling to deviate from the brief that they were given by their governments. In practice, they didn't even have to listen to one another. So again, what's the point? The national interest was already predetermined by headquarters, no matter how the conference played out. Dilemma! But diplomats can do so much more without literally burning down the house for cash. I really believe in the role that diplomacy has to play in the world, but I also believe that the way diplomacy is practiced needs to be changed so that we can meet the challenges of today's more modern challenges and pressing needs. And that's why I highly encourage you to become a diplomat and really help us move beyond the national interest so that it becomes the international interest. And climate change is so important, and it should be on everyone's first priority, because if our house burns down tomorrow, we only have ourselves to blame. And guess what? We have nowhere else to go. So get started on your journey. Like this video, subscribe to this channel so that you can become a diplomat every Friday. Also, join the Grassroot Diplomat Online Academy to really increase your skills for an international career and level up by knowing how to use your personal brand in today's multilateral society. Grab a copy of the Diplomatic Planner and start getting behind the climate change movement wherever you are, so every single government makes this the most pressing concern. Let's protect our home together, because no one can protect this home alone. Join me again next Friday, and seriously, let's get hyped in protecting our home and planet right now.